Hello.
Yes, I'm looking for Laila Yuile, please.
Speaking.
Laila, it's Fred Jones calling from the Fred Factor. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, Fred. How about yourself?
Doing quite well, quite well. Before we get started, Laila, maybe I'll just ask you to speak up a little bit so all the fans here we have in our chat room tonight can hear everything you have to say, because I think what you have to say is very important.
Thank you. Not a problem. I was trying to listen to Patrick. He was patchy at times.
Yes.
Understand where you're coming from.
He's got a little tiny voice there, but he's a very smart man, and I'm glad that he's at least going to try and oppose Scott Young should he run. But as I mentioned, Laila, you have a blog that you posted. Quickly, in summary, what was the essence of what you were trying to say in your recent blog post?
Well, basically, where I stand on this whole issue is, I'm just right out there. I think everything that's happened, everything I've heard, all the accounts I've heard, it's all a bunch of BS, to be frank. Being a mayor and having served this community well, and for many years, is definitely not an allowance for crimes committed. Just because you have great friends who support you, just because you seem to have the Crown attorney supporting you. In fact, I've heard some feedback on my blog that makes it sound like the Crown actually was the defense.
Yes.
Speaking.
Yes, that was crazy.
Shocking. I would have loved to have been in the courtroom to have heard that, because I think that just kind of sums it up right there, besides the fact that he seems to have cut some sort of a deal, pleading guilty to, a couple charges of assault and breach of conditions, and then let's just forget about the criminal harassment. Let's just forget about the stalking, obsessive behavior. What happened to that?
Right. Yeah.
What I think is that politicians need to be held accountable just like any other citizen. And part of that accountability comes down to the trust that you were given when you swore the oath, taken into office as mayor or whatever position. Where in that oath does it say that a politician has to maintain a professional and personal example? They have to lead their life in an exemplary manner, be beholden to the public position and the example that they represent. And on my post, I actually said, here's some words. Take them all, city people, and put it into the charter, put it into that oath that they have to swear the day they take office. And this part especially sums it up. I understand that any involvement in activities that result in criminal charges or prosecution will result in my immediate removal from office until I'm resolved. And should I be found guilty of those criminal charges, my tenure will end without further notice.
That would be great. And what's amazing to me is that actually isn't already part of the charter, because as I was saying, City Council is powerless to remove Scott Young, and he apparently is allowed to, bitch slap people, and he gets away with it. He gets paid to assault people.
And what jobs? You tell me in this day and age where lawsuits are everywhere. You come to work with an earring sticking out of your nose, and your boss tells you to go, I'm going to sue you. And so therefore, in almost every position you work in, whether it's something mundane as, McDonald's clerk, or whether you're an executive, or whether you're an MLA, there seems to be some type of protection for the employer. And that protection lies in when you start a job, you sign conditions of employment in a lot of places.
It's true.
It says you are subjecting yourself to a criminal record check, because we don't want criminals working here, especially if you're in a position of trust. Look at the care aide in North Vancouver recently. Nobody did a criminal record check on her, and why not? You're putting her into the home of a defenseless senior, and you're not going to check who this person is. You're just going to call a couple references. Give me a break. Why should a mayor be exempt from criminal record checks? Why should a mayor be exempt from having to answer to some sort of criminal allegation or conviction in his personal life? To say that his personal life is separate from a political position, it's just BS. It doesn't belong in this day and age. I can't believe it's still happening.
I agree with you. Now, we've got some people in our interactive chat room who are very interested in this subject. One of them has just asked me if his personal demons really hinder his work for the city. I guess suggesting that maybe we shouldn't care what he does in his off time. What is your response to that?
I think there's a limit to that. What? Should we care if he likes to look at, oh, God knows, whatever terms you want in your personal life. You want to talk about sex, that's fine. You want to talk about activities, he bungee jumps naked, who cares? Really, does bungee jumping naked affect a mayor's position? No. When you are talking about something as serious as assault or perhaps drunken driving, looking back to Gordon Campbell, you know. Look how quick we are to forgive people and say, oh, they're human. Oh, they're so human. Because look, they apologize and they're making this pledge and they're making attempts. No, I'm sorry. That doesn't cut it. It takes a certain kind of person to get in a vehicle, to go over to someone's house with an intention to harm them.
Yes.
With an intention that nobody knows, and I put this in my post, only Scott Young knows what he was going to do that night. But how many people do you know go walking around with ropes in their pockets?
No, exactly. That's the frightening part of that whole thing. And I agree. I mean, there are certain limits that should, of course. I mean, what religion he may choose to practice is his business. Where he likes to eat is his business. You know, what kind of TV shows and movies he likes is his business. Right. You know, if he has a feet fetish, I don't care. But when he actually starts breaking the law, and he's held to a higher standard than you and I are, and if he can't be trusted to uphold basic laws like don't kick people in the ribs, how do we trust this guy with our tax money?
And it's a judgment call, because it does take a certain type of person to commit a certain type of crime.
Yes.
You can pretend it doesn't, but it really does, because not everybody goes around beating dogs, not everybody goes around beating their wives, and not everybody goes around committing these crimes, and then when they're actually called on it, you know, when they're actually charged, somebody says, hey, you can't do that, that's actually illegal in Canada, then they start crying, oh, poor me, look at all these tragedies I've gone through. I've had all these emotional turmoils in my life, I've had all this going on, you know, I'm going to take counseling, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. What? If we're just going to forgive this guy? Like, my understanding is that in the beginning, I actually went back and looked at some news articles in 2007 when this first occurred. And, I mean, the picture they paint of Scott Young, people in the town, people in his apartment building, is a man that, I mean, I can't believe he wasn't a saint. I can't believe we don't have this darn little silver emblems around our neck, because that was the image that was portrayed back then. And yet now, some of those same people are going, wow, gee, I guess it must be true. Okay, we got to get him out of office, and now we're stuck with him. How do we get rid of this guy? You can, you know, disbar him. You can take him out of his mayor seat if he misses a couple of meetings, but you can't take him out because he committed assault on somebody?
Yeah, no.
Well, you know, how do we fix this?
I agree. It is a little strange, but there doesn't seem to be any recourse. And I think that it is quite odd that would happen in the first place. But I guess what it comes down to is we want to get rid of him because he's not doing his job. He's not doing what he should be doing. He's turning into be not the guy we all thought he was. But then he can still sit in his office for the whole time. We need, frankly, your idea. They've got to sign something that says at the very beginning, if I start acting like an ass and breaking laws and not representing city, then my term ends yesterday. And
because it does not matter how profitable he makes that municipality. It does not matter how well he represents, you know, himself on the Greater Vancouver Transit Authority Board. It doesn't matter how well he has done for that city, really, because my understanding is that his mayor duties have been performed well. If
yes.
you look at it, that
yes.
we're gonna pretend that we don't know what you've been doing, Scott Young, you know, behind everybody's back.
Right.
We're gonna pretend that you didn't follow her around in a, you know, wearing the clothes that she bought you. I mean, some of the accounts that I've been reading from the trial and some of his behaviors, this is not a man who was acting rationally.
No.
This is not. So how can you say that doesn't affect it? You need to have some sort of recourse, and it needs to be put into place right in the beginning. And it doesn't matter whether you're a mayor or whether you're a council member. God forbid, you know, what if the next council meeting it comes up that, you know, one of the council members was a child molester? Well, what are you going to do? Are you going to say that that's okay? You can still sit on council. You're representing the city, but I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do. You've got to have a preventative measure before you even get to that point.